Hello, hello, hello. I am in the living room with my baby dog. Yes, we are here on. He has his own light there. He has a flashlight on the collar because Paul is worried about him when he goes out alone into the garden. So, and we have two infrared heat lamps that are shining at us, and that makes this picture image here very, very interesting. I don't know, like Andy Warhol type of style, but it's nice. It's good. And there is my new LED light. And it shines these nice light effects onto the ceiling. Looks very, very, very gorgeous. I love it, absolutely love it. And over there is my artwork. It's hard to see now, but one of them is called the Trump Tower. And I even have Donald Trump depicted there in a sculpture that looks no different than any of my other alien spaceship astronauts. So, and this brings me now to the subject that I want to talk about. Post Second World War. Karl Donitz. Yes. That name has come to my attention several times. First through, a long time ago I heard that name, of course, through whatever we learned about Nazi Germany and all of that. Karl Donitz obviously being one of the top executives. And then Patrick Rove. He roves boats all the time. That's why his name is Patrick Rove. He roving and roving and roving through swimming pools on an inflatable flamingo boat. But I don't want to get into that subject. But he brought up Karl Donitz, and he only had an O. He didn't have the real which is a German letter that only pertains to Germany. Is an O with two dots over it. Donitz, not donuts, not like donut. Donitz. Okay, so yeah, I had already heard about the name. I knew that he had that in there and all of that, but obviously we don't have that on our keyboard. That only very few people have that, or I don't know if you can add that as another feature or something in your typewriting program. If you probably can get something like this, these different accents onto the different vocals, the vocal letters. Okay, so yeah, in Germany we have Ä, Ö, Ü. Okay, Ä is an A with two dots. Ö is an O with two dots, as in Karl Donitz. And then we have the Ü, which is an U, a U. Germany say U. U with two dots. That's Ü. So, Ä, Ö, Ü. So, and then the Scandinavian countries, they have similar things like this as well. As you go further north, it gets even, they even have more of those. So, and then obviously in the the Eastern European countries, they have more of those as well, and they use that also under a sea, and then it has a different sound to it, and so. But I don't want to get into this like Marina Abramovich. So, so I think that sea has an extra accent or something like this to create that the tongue type of sound, the hissing type of sounds, these many different type of hissing tongue type of sounds. Yeah, and then we have the Kongsan in Africa, and they have different accents, and they have like Kongsan. I studied all of this. I took African anthropology class in Santa Monica. So all of this is very interesting. Yeah, all of this it's fascinating. I can just go into any kind of subject from any kind of, you give me any kind of theme, and I can just go on and on and on about this. But let's go back to Karl Donitz and his teachings, which I have absolutely zero idea what the teachings of Karl Donitz actually are, and Pat never told me what they are. There are obviously a whole volumes written by Karl Donitz, his philosophy. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So I watched a spoken documentary by a guy on YouTube. He talks about all kinds of things, extraterrestrials and stuff like this. And so subject E.T. Karl Donitz does not trail very far behind. Okay, once we get into this rabbit hole, then you cannot miss out on Karl Donitz, of course. I mean, he showed a photo of Karl Donitz when he was in his 20s, and I was like, that's it. Karl Donitz is a tall white. And what are the tall whites? No, they're not Scandinavians. They are ETs. They are from out of space. Yes, extraterrestrials, tall whites, and they have crashed here a long time ago. Okay, a colony of them with several spacecrafts. They came here. I guess their planet had run out of resources. They have probably done to their planet what humans want to do to this planet and are busy trying to do to this planet. Okay, that's the so-called bottleneck situation. The Drake equation situation, where a civilization on a planet, the main think tank species that, every planet has tons of different species and other planets too. But it's obviously the most destructive of all species that has a little bit more cognitive reasoning ability than the other species, but isn't advanced enough to understand that with their cognitive abilities comes responsibility. Okay, so that's this bottleneck situation. So will they make it through the bottleneck? Will they evolve far enough to understand and look back on history and say, dang, we have done something wrong here. Okay, we cannot wage a war against an ethnic group, right? Karl Donitz should learn that by now. And Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun and Martin Heidegger. Yes, you heard me correctly. The philosopher Martin Heidegger. They were all friends, okay? They were all like the the inner circle of the Nazi regime. And then many other people of Himmler, I forgot his first name, many other people that belong to that inner circle. I believe they were like about 1,000 people of that absolute closest inner knitted circle of Adolf Hitler. And so, long story, I don't even know. I have so many thoughts on my head that I don't even know. I'm just like, I just want to talk about all of this at once, but I can't, obviously. This is too complicated, it's too complex. So, let me take a deep breath and lean back and relax. And let's just zoom in on Karl Donitz for right now. Because Karl Donitz, when I saw the photo, I knew it. He is a tall white. Okay. And I heard about another report of a guy. He made this actually into a fiction novel because his wife said it's too dangerous to put this into an actual true story. So put it into fiction, it's safer. A lot of people have done this. I fully believe it, hook, line, and sinker. I believe these people. I really do. I mean, there may also be people out there that will actually write something like this too, either in fiction or particularly if they write it as a true story. There may be some people that are fakes, those are fake stories, obviously, of fake made up aliens. But the tall whites, I imagine they are for real, okay? Because a lot of people have reported on them. They look just like humans. They are just a little bit skinnier and taller. And yeah, there are a lot of humans that look like that as well. So, and then again, one doesn't really know. Maybe these so-called Hyperboreers, as Friedrich Nietzsche called them, who knows? They may be actually people that landed at the North Pole and became the Hyperboreers, but they're really the tall whites, and then they interbred with humans, and I don't even know how this is possible. How species that have evolved completely from scratch, from different sources, from different amino acids, right? I don't know if they have. I have no idea whether they have or may. I think it's possible. I think this has happened. There may also be some kind of intermixing. There may also be what they call panspermia, when a meteorite comes here and sows the seed, amino acid blocks that then start to take on a life here and zip themselves apart. And then it evolves here from scratch, but it was brought here originally, the first building blocks of it. So I don't know, could also, I talked about this before. These things can absolutely happen here from completely with the Earth's building blocks. But what is the Earth consisting of? The Earth is consisting of many meteorites. So stardust is everywhere, okay? So there's this big explosion called the Big Bang. That happened when 5 billion years ago or 10 billion years ago. Okay, and that formed the galaxy, and there may be another explosion somewhere else, right? Far, very, very far away. Most likely, because obviously everything is infinite. So when you have infinite space, then these things, then I think it is not just an idea or a possibility, but it is most likely the case. I would say it is close to a guarantee, or if not a complete guarantee, that a Big Bang is happening indefinitely into indefinite space, right? So there are indefinitely many galaxies, indefinitely many universes and parallel universes, and universes that are extremely far apart, and so on, So there's also intergalactic space, and there is no such thing as a vacuum in between. So because every space that appears as empty space is filled with some form of energy. I know this for sure. So there is no such thing as emptiness. We can calm down our brain, and then people call it empty brain, or they empty themselves of their thoughts, but that's impossible. You can't do this. You can calm down the brain to the point where you don't have any kind of egoic tension anymore. But that's something that people could not even wrap their heads around. And I think the only person who's ever been able to do this was Gautama Buddha and his new reincarnation, Jiddu Krishnamurti. Okay, so Jiddu Krishnamurti is Gautama Buddha, and he was able to do it. And then he's come in many other forms as well, to us and also to other galaxies, I'm sure. So trying out different forms, trying out dog form, this form, woman form, man form, ET form, crystal form, different existences to teach, to help, to bring more awareness to people, and to shine a light and help them see which path to take, So don't go down into the Grand Canyon, don't keep walking this way where you fall down into the abyss. Okay, so take another route that goes this way or through the forest, and then make something out of your life. Don't go down that abyss, as I used this as a metaphor many times. So Karl Donitz, good-looking man in his 20s, so obviously he is most likely not alive anymore, and neither are any of the other people of the inner circle are still alive. Most likely not, okay? They were all Jiddu Krishnamurti's generation, and my grandmother's generation, so for sure, and also my grandfather's generation too. So my grandmother was born in 1900, 1900. They called these people the 00s. So the exact turn of the century, when things started to move forward slowly, and my grandfather was born 1908, and Paul's dad was born 1915, and Annalise was born 1921. My former therapist when I was a child. So I'm putting all of these things into perspective, So David Bohm and David Shainberg belong to Annalise's generation. They're no longer here either. So these people are around, I don't know. Karl Donitz probably also born somewhere in this range, 1910, 1915, 1920, something like this, around that time. Okay, so probably earlier, because I forgot now Adolf Hitler's birthday, the exact year, but I think Adolf Hitler was in his late 20s in 1933 when he took over the governing. So when that started with that Nazi regime, so he was quite young at that time. And then Karl Donitz came in not long after that as his very right hand executor and secretary and all of that. And so yeah, they were in their 20s, mid to late 20s, I would think, or at least early 30s. So they were young men at that time. Adolf Hitler was not a tall white. Adolf Hitler was a quarter Jewish. So, and for the Jewish Orthodox people, I think they accept that when a man is a quarter Jewish. I don't know 100%, but they have to be at least a quarter Jewish in order to belong to that Jewish sectation, to the Orthodox Jewish religion, which is also, this is very race discriminative. Okay, they did it too. So, and then Adolf Hitler, being part Jewish, going against Jewish people, that's all totally ridiculous, and it's all crazy, and it doesn't make any sense. Because he should be very well aware that the Jewish people are geniuses, okay, and whether they are mixed or not, they are geniuses, okay. So one genius is Sam Wagner. He's a genius. I'm not saying this lightly. He really is. He's a self-proclaimed cluster B mentally ill person. He considers himself to be a narcissist, Machiavellian, sociopath, and psychopath, all of those, okay? But, he uses his prefrontal cortex, he uses his IQ to make something out of his life, and he uses his courage to tell the public what it is like to be someone like this, because most people who are like that, they're way too chicken to tell the public what that is like to be afflicted with this type of mental illness. Paul doesn't call it mental illness. Paul calls this a genetic characteristic, just like hair color or skin color. So, but of course this is more complicated, so there are people that will have the genetic disposition, given a specific trauma in life, to go into a specific direction with that trauma, versus someone else would go into a different direction with that same trauma. That's where the disposition of genes come in. So someone who has the brain anatomy for extreme peacefulness and patience and all of that, they will, like, for example, let's take David Pelzer. Okay, that's a great example. That's the prototypical example for this. David Pelzer versus Sam Wagner or Osama bin Laden, right? Or Barack Obama, or what are all of those names, Alejandro Avila, okay, so whatever name, Richard Ramirez, okay, whatever names you want to come up with. So you have David Pelzer on one side, who was extremely traumatized by his psychotic mother, who tortured him physically when he was a child. She isolated him away from the family, which is already psychological torture. Then she put him in the cellar. He was not allowed to be upstairs. She would go in the cellar frequently to torture him every day, ongoing. Okay, put his hands in acid where the teacher found his hands, where the skin had come off and all of that. Now, she tried to burn him on a stove. I mean, this was going on for many, many, many years undetected until the teacher finally found his hands and called the authorities, and the mother was arrested and put in prison for the rest of her life. And he was brought to a kind-hearted foster family. He wrote books about his life. I believe he wrote 4 books or 5 books. David Pelzer, very interesting, very horrific to read this, traumatic to read it even. I cried and cried. I mean, I was so shocked and so horrified about this, what happened to him. And then he is this, as an adult, he is this ultra, mega, kind, patient, amazing father to his son. Incredible husband. The woman probably left him because the woman is a jerk. And so he ended up being a single father and was there for his son and was there for everyone and was just the ultra, like the role model human, right? So, and never acted anything out. Just because he had trauma doesn't mean he has to act it out. He has to go into cluster B direction. No. So obviously not. So he has brain anatomy, and that's genetic. Yes, he has the brain anatomy for peacefulness, and he still has to live with this complex PTSD from childhood. Yeah. This is severe trauma. Okay, and that needs to be dealt with. That has to be incrementally cried out. Okay, it's very important to do this. They didn't even he wanted to join the Navy, I think, and they said, they all heard about him, and they said, with your past, you cannot join the Navy. There's no way. You are a basket case with that kind of past. Okay. And he said, but he's not a basket case. He's very put together, and he's very patient, and he's a very hardworking and dedicated and patient person, and very peaceful person, and very focused. Okay. So that's very rare. That's obviously so rare. It's an anomaly. Okay. It's an anomaly case of someone who is not negatively affected by something very traumatic in the past. Okay. But that's still complex PTSD. Okay. Severe PTSD still. I mean, the trauma is there, obviously, and if it doesn't affect him in any other way, then he's probably seeking a woman who falls into that same pattern as his mother. Okay, so, and that happens very often, so that people will even become a masochist or something, or go into the bondage type of direction. That is mental illness. Okay, it's severe mental illness, has to do with complex PTSD, obviously. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And so they didn't want to accept him in the military, but because they just didn't believe it that anyone can be so normal. So, but that's like an extreme ability that is genetic, obviously. Most people will act it out in some form. They will, if they they acted out on themselves. Some people cut themselves in order to deal with this pain, or with this dumb pain, this dull pain that they can't put a name to it. And this dull pain that they don't even know where that comes from. It may be all buried down underneath consciousness levels, and they cut themselves or hurt themselves or sabotage their lives in some way. Or the other ones, the cluster B ones, that will become mean, that will become violent, and so on, to other people. That will never hurt themselves, but they will hurt other people. And those are the dark triad. Those are the sadistic and sociopathic, Machiavellian, psychopathic. Okay. Those are the ones that often become very callous mafia bosses and so on. And those are the ones that work for the CIA, because the CIA, obviously, they want someone like that who is absolutely ruthless and callous. Because they want those people that do these brutal interrogations with people. Someone like me could never do an interrogation with anyone. I could never torture or waterboard. Barack Obama brought torture back for the U.S. military, okay, which was completely against the U.S. Constitution from the people in the past. Okay, they made us very clear, we do not accept torture for any purpose. Barack Obama and George W. Bush brought it back to the United States. I just want people to know this, so that they know who is who, and so they don't glorify the wrong people here. Okay, let's be very crystal clear on who is who and what is happening in their brains. Okay. Barack Obama is Machiavellian sociopath, okay, 100%. George W. Bush is like a child who was not running this country. He was run by Dick Cheney, the vice president at that time. Okay, Dick Cheney was running the United States. And Dick Cheney knew what he was doing was very wrong, but he was so far into this that he couldn't get out anymore. It's like someone getting so deeply involved with the mafia, he couldn't get out anymore. And that's what caused him a severe heart attack and heart problems, where he had to go under the knife, and then for 1 week he had a clear mind. And he told people all kinds of things that he would normally not say, because he thought he was going to be dying. He thought he wasn't going to survive this, but then he did, which is weird, I mean, with that kind of heart problems. So to survive something like this and not even become healthy, not even eat healthy food, not even eat cayenne pepper and raw food, right? So, but keep on eating the stuff that clogs up the heart valve, the cheese, the pizza, and whatever, alcohol and meat and all of that terrible stuff. But Dick Cheney is definitely a sociopath. Yeah. Because a kind-hearted person could never even let themselves get down into this mafia tunnel this far. So I'm not saying that Dick Cheney is like all bad, but bad enough to let himself get down into this greed drain, as we could describe it as that, some kind of like a greed tunnel, greed cave underground, something like this, to go further and further into, and then not be able to get out, because if if he dies because of the heart problems, then he has nothing to lose. So for 1 week he was interviewed and said a bunch of things that shocked people. Like he told people to vote for Hillary Clinton, and he said that all kinds of stuff, that all of this is, there's so much corruption going on, and all based on greed, and they do terrible things to the environment because of greed and all of that. So all of these videos were removed by YouTube. They didn't stay up for more than a few hours. Okay, I happened to see one of them. I was shocked. It's like, wow. And then next day the video was gone. By the time I wanted to show it to my mother, the video was gone. And that was a while back, obviously. So, but yeah, these kind of things, and then I come across these things also, because I pay attention, and I also synchronicity, of course, law of attraction. Once you get into studying this kind of stuff, the kind of stuff actually shows itself to you, like it's almost an energy form that wants to be seen, and like a little child being beaten, that comes up to the person they trust, and they say, tugs on your shirt, tugs on your pant pocket, and says, "Can you be my good mama? I will tell you what happened to me. My dad is whatever, my parents are mean to me. I need to tell you what's happening there in my household. You need to take me out of there, An energy form can do the same thing as a child. An energy form of urgency, okay? And this energy form of urgency can be something that is created through someone's inner scream, like the inner scream of Dick Cheney, for example. So Karl Donitz, I don't believe for a second that Karl Donitz was an evil man. Karl Donitz was probably much nicer even than Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was greedy and Machiavellian and sociopathic, not psychopathic, but very greedy, and he would just ignore, whatever compassion he had, and the compassion would say to him, you can't go this direction, and the greed would say, whatever, don't worry about it, it's okay, let's go into denial about this, let's cover this up with denial, because the greed is better, or, let's just forget about this or that, and let's just make excuses and so on, That's how most people are, by the way. So let's go into let's just close both eyes and look the other way, So that's definitely who Dick Cheney is. Not a very evolved soul. Okay? It's like student of life. So that's second level soul development, maybe. If not beginner soul. So Karl Donitz, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but Karl Donitz looks to me like a light worker. So light worker, the way I use that word, is third level of soul development. So we have 8 levels. 8 is the infinite cosmos. 7 is Buddha level soul. That's the highest existence soul level soul. Elon Musk is Buddha level soul. Bomjan and several other people. Okay, so I believe Greta Thunberg is a Buddha level soul. So that's soul level 7. Okay, and then soul level 6 is God level. Soul level 5 is angel level. Soul level 4 is right in the middle, and that's where I'm at, and that's the indigo. Okay. Soul level 3, Karl Donitz, light worker. Okay. So someone who has already been around through several incarnation, has learned something, and has bigger goals, but is not evolved enough to see the complete big picture of everything. So still stuck in, very, very prone to going into, they are bad, and that's because of their genetic disposition, and that's that entire race, that's that entire gene pool, and let us go against that entire gene pool. Okay. So that's what the third soul developmental level is still doing. Is still possible that they do it. Okay. When they get to the higher end of that light worker, when they're almost ready to become an indigo, they have passed that. But in the very beginning and each one is a wide bracket, so these are just this is an approximate order that I created in order to see the approximate relation between the different soul developmental stages. Obviously, there is it doesn't have sprockets or whatever the word is. Ladder steps. Okay, it doesn't have that. It is a completely. It is free from any kind of plateaus, or it is a gradual process of learning and growing. I'm doing this bracket system in order to create, this is a completely abstract way of organizing to this soul developmental journey in order to have an approximate overview on where anyone approximately is on their soul developmental journey. And I might be wrong about some people. I'm just going by what I perceive and see and feel. Okay, so I might be wrong. Maybe Karl Donitz is a Machiavellian. I don't know. So I know for a fact that Adolf Hitler came into this situation as an idealist. He had idealistic aspirations. Okay. His goal was to make the world safe and better. The problem here is then he goes into dichotomy. He goes into, and I don't know where Adolf Hitler where I would put him. I mean, at least at the lower level of light worker, probably somewhere around there, lowest the beginner level of light worker, the end level of student of life, so somewhere there in that range. I don't know. Good aspirations and psychotic and seeing things through the lens of dichotomy and good and evil, very dangerous, always, That's why Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that book, Beyond Good and Evil. I read the whole book. I started now on another book by Friedrich Nietzsche, Human All Too Human. I'm reading these in German because reading Nietzsche in German is way more accurate and reliable for me, since I speak German, might just as well read these texts in their original form, so that they have been at the least twisted, right? Because anytime you translate a book from one language into another, you start to encounter a twisting or a false interpretation, because how can you translate something into another language without bringing your own word choice into it? Because it's very difficult to put one word one-to-one into another language. Very, very difficult. There are always several options, at least 5 options of other words that you use, and then each word has that may be very strongly related to the other words will have their own particular characteristic and vibration also, sometimes it goes into vibrational nuances when it comes to language and language translations. So that's why I started to translate the Zarathustra book. I have gotten so far that I was 1/3 into the book, with a translation from German into English of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, because that is my favorite book of all times, because it is a fairy tale by Friedrich Nietzsche that uses tons and tons of metaphors, very poetic and very up to date and very, very psychological, okay, and that it goes very deep into group thinking and into the danger of making these dichotomies between good versus evil and so on, and then sliding into religiousness and cultism from there. Okay, it goes very, very quickly, whether that is a Nazi regime or the Catholic religion or Islam or the Christian, evangelical, Pentecostal, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness religion, Satanism, whatever cult or religion that has morphed and split apart from other groups and so on. It is happening non-stop. This is constantly happening in the human species. More and more cultism, more and more group thinking, more and more dichotomy. One group splits off and thinks, now we got it. We nailed it. We've got the truth now. We hold the truth in our hands, right? And that's not the case, okay? Because what is the truth? Okay, so Friedrich Nietzsche got into that very deep in his books. Also in his biography, in his autobiography, he gets into this very, very deep. It's not just an autobiography. He's putting himself into a meat wolf psychologically. Okay, more than anyone else I've ever seen. Okay, the other people, they brag themselves up in their biographies, right? So no, not Nietzsche. He says you have to shred yourself apart and burn yourself into ashes in order to come out as a phoenix. Okay. And he means this psychologically, of course, and not physically. So you have to, and that's what introspection is, okay? So the Nazi people, none of them were that far, where they would introspect and see the facts and see the truth and see reality and all of this. They see what they believe is reality. They see it through their lens of things. They see it through the lens of dichotomy, through the lens of cultism, of they are bad and we are good. Okay, so they have victimized us, they have victimized our people and so on, whatever that they were, whoever they were talking about at that time, they were talking about the Jewish people that were an integrated part of the German public, right? So incredibly smart people and contributors to society, okay? Better at things than other people. So maybe some people were jealous of them. So maybe Adolf Hitler had a lot of jealousy of them. And then when we don't work on our mental illness, what happens then is the ego will hijack these type of things and even turn this into an enemy picture. And it will become such a concrete enemy picture, like engraved in concrete. So far, it grooves itself in to the point where the person's whole life is like built upon this type of idea, right? And it becomes worse and worse and worse. And they ride themselves, they screw drive themselves further and further and further into this way of thinking that the other one, this particular group there, they are my enemy and they have victimized us, and it really started out of jealousy. How easily can we fix this if we address this particular problem when it arises? When I see, let's say there's a Pleiadian spaceship coming, landing down there on the lower parking lot, right? Tonight, a Pleiadian spaceship from outer space landing on our lower parking lot, and out of that spaceship come women that look a million times better than I do, right? According to my particular taste. We all have different tastes, right? Let's say they have this real thin straight hair, which I always admired. They're like white blonde hair and light blue eyes, and they look like ghosts, and they have watermelon-sized boobs, and I mean, I can't complain the way I look, but there's a difference between a pineapple and a watermelon, obviously. So, but if they have watermelon-sized boobs, watermelon-sized butts, butt cheeks, and a real sturdy build and strong and big bone structure and bigger heads, like big brains. I think it's beautiful, Some people might think that's weird, right? That's too much, like big fat brain, like alien brain, E.T. brain, No, I think it's beautiful. I personally, that looks much better, My brain's obviously, my hair's it's kind of greasy and a little bit wet from the hydrogen peroxide, but obviously my brain is not. That's not like this, So, but I think it looks better with the bigger brain. That's just my personal view. So let's say there are these ET women coming out of there, and they have all of these. They have these exaggerated attributes of everything that I personally find very, very beautiful. Other people might disagree, but I think the trend is definitely going in that direction, probably, most likely. But I'm seeing this very from my personal self-centered view, from my own taste. So I see this coming out of there, and there are like 10 of these Pleiadian women coming out of there, and they haven't done anything wrong to me, right? They're just better at everything. They're better at math, they're focused better, they're nicer, they don't get They'll talk to Paul in a nice way. I get irritated quickly, yeah. And I get jealous. Oh, they look better, they are sexier, they are smarter, they know how to talk to Paul better, now Paul falls in love with one, they get together, they get married, I become obsolete, right? So now I go, them Pleiadians. Now I'm going to become the Adolf Hitler of my Pleiadian dichotomy. Alright. And I'm gonna rule the world and tell every journalist them Pleiadian mean bitches, okay? So they are mean, and I don't even want to say what Adolf Hitler said about the Jewish people. I would never even let something like this come over my lips, not even to quote anyone, not even to quote him, not even to talk about it, okay? You've probably heard some of his hate speeches, okay? That came later, so he had really psychoticized himself further and further into it. It's very, very nasty. I'm not putting this man ever at all on any kind of pedestal. Just saying, let's look at the things for what they actually are. Okay, he's not a demon. Okay, he was a psychotic man who was completely mentally ill. Okay, he started out originally when he was very young. He started out as an enthusiastic man who wanted to make the world good. But the problem occurred. He didn't deal with his jealousy issues. It escalated into an agenda. And from there, he incorporated this agenda that he has never worked on. He incorporated that problematically into his mission to make the world a better place. You see how quickly this can go. Very wrong, right? Very, very wrong. You can create a Black Lives Matter. This was created artificially by the Rothschild corporate agenda in order to divide us. Okay? Divide and conquer, that's their strategy. Okay, but they knew how easily people would jump on this bandwagon, right? And the black people then go, oh, these white people, they have always mistreated us. Well, then white people are not mistreating them anymore, haven't for a very, very long time. And even in the past, there were maybe only a handful of white people that mistreated black people. And the black slaveholders in Africa were much worse to their black slaves than any white slave holder or employer was. Okay, so yes, I'll put this on you. I just want to set the record straight here, because I think people have completely lost touch with reality. So this one, let's set the record straight on this. Let's look at things for what they are. So if I see the Pleiadian women and I'm jealous, and one takes Paul away from me, and they might even let me live here and take care of me, but my ego is so pissed, and I feel marginalized, and then out of this comes, let's say, another Adolf Hitler type of energy, right? And then because I'm a missionary, I want to make the world a better place. Let's say I incorporate this hatred now that I started there, because I never worked on my jealousy. I take this hatred and I put it into my mission to make the world a better place. Then we have another thing rolling up, okay? Then there will be a war against those new visitors that are hoping to find a home here, okay? That came here from outer space. They're so intelligent, they can help us make the world a better place, all right? Adolf Hitler used von Braun. Von Braun was Jewish. He was a physicist. He used him to create all kinds of cutting-edge technology, and then use that for, von Braun had no other choice. It's like either that, or he would have to, or he'd be sent to another country or whatever, So either way, he would always be used by some government. He was very crystal clear about this. So someone like this, of that magnitude, can't get away from being seen by very high-ranking officials, being seen for their real abilities, obviously. So, but they use them. They use these people for their personal agenda, which is wrong, of course, But, I would never do this. If I see Pleiadians and I'm jealous, I deal with that jealousy. I deal with this jealousy right here and in this recliner chair, okay? I say, dang, 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 I am jealous. And it ain't feeling good. Trust me, it doesn't, okay? But I deal with this. I go into it, okay? So I feel it. I feel it over and over and over and over and over. This is my opportunity. Thank you, Pleiadian. It's my opportunity. You're actually helping me feel and resolve my childhood trauma, my complex PTSD, okay, that my mother has caused me, okay, very severely. My mother was jealous of me. When a mother is jealous of the daughter, then the daughter will most likely fall into that same pattern, okay. That's why it's important that we deal with our pain, not act it out on other people, not go into a Hitleresque war mission and courtism and so on. Don't do that, okay. Don't do Black Lives Matter, okay. No. We all matter. We all, the Pleiadians, the Martians, you matter, everyone. Muslims, Jewish people, Germans, Native Americans, any kind of anyone, Indians, everyone, Hyperboreans, everyone, Karl Donitz, everyone matters, okay? We all matter equally much, the baby dog, every living being on earth and beyond matters equally much. Okay, let's write this down on a piece of paper and hang it on the wall. Okay, and every time you hear someone with their agenda again, with the Rothschild agenda, you cross that out in your head. Okay, and you say right then and there to yourself, they are lying to us. They're pawning off their agenda to cause a division among us, and we don't want this. And then you look at your own mantra that you wrote down on the wall. Okay. Every living being is equally precious. Okay? No matter how fucked up mentally, how messed up, and how much PTSD we have, complex PTSD, how Machiavellian you are or whatever. Just come to your senses. Don't act out on other people anymore. Know thyself. Socrates said that. Introspect into your own mind. Okay? Don't use the occult for your own selfish purposes. Martin Heidegger was going deep into the occult, and so was Karl Donitz and Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun. Himmler, all of them, they went into the occult, and they wanted to use the occult for their own mission, and they justified it with they are bad and we are good. And that's a false dichotomy, as all of these dichotomies are false. They are misunderstandings of how the world works. They bypass my mantra, we are all equally precious. Okay, they don't understand it. Okay, they create a war front, Okay, they start psychologically, and then they develop that into a full-fledged war, where people get hurt and damaged, and so on, where it creates the other nations, where it creates some kind of a political, where total political upheaval, civil wars, civil unrest, total injustices in the world, and then other nations creating allied forces and then going against that one nation that started this. Okay, not that this is never gonna work. And Adolf Hitler and his, according to what I have learned from this one guy that was talking about this just recently, is that that apparently they had insider knowledge into all kinds of different areas: the occult, psychology, technology, high technology through von Braun, but there's a possibility that they had contact to tall whites, and that, again, this sounds like a joke, but maybe Karl Donitz was a tall white, okay, and educated them on what he has learned, or he was third, fourth, or 10th generation tall white. Could be too, and what he has learned from his ancestors or whatever. It's a possibility. I'm just saying, I'm not ruling it out. Okay, so he could just be Scandinavian. I don't know, right? But I'm not gonna block this out. I'm not gonna say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. And no, I take all of these theories very, very, very seriously. I look at it with an open mind. I put things together, and if it doesn't make too much sense, I'm not going to throw it out. I'm going to set it to the side and let it sit there as an option, as a possibility. Okay, this could be a possibility. I'm not saying this is all fact or anything. I would never say that, because if I said, no, this is a fact that Karl Donitz is a 10th generation tall white, right? And his ancestors have come here from another galaxy, and they're totally unrelated to humans, and they evolved from a different source, also from stardust, but they had their own amino acid evolution and so on. If I said this is a fact, then you can call me a tin header, or you can call me crazy, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist or a nutcracker or whatever, and say, yeah, that's just, I'm making claims here, right? But I'm not making any claims. I'm just talking about these things as possibilities of interesting thought processes, interesting hypotheses, so interesting possibilities, definitely. So, but they did have insider knowledge into extreme technology, and technology that was very advanced, if not totally advanced for their time. And where does that technology come from? Also, specific submarine technology that was cutting edge, and I guess a lot of nations had some submarine technology, and everyone wanted to have the better submarines, obviously, because everyone wanted to have the submarines that could not be detected, and that would go deeper to underground, under the ocean, and then different nations started to set foot in Antarctica. So all of this makes perfect sense to me. There are Antarctica is wild public domain, okay, and there are different space stations, or stations that have set up, ice stations that have set foot there in Antarctica. There's a Chinese area, entire Chinese compound. There's a US compound, there's a German compound, French compound, and several other nations that are all set up in Antarctica, and they have a specific agreement there that nobody is allowed to bomb Antarctica, so that they can keep that everyone can keep their research facilities intact, and that because they're all depending on this, obviously. So if they can do that, then they could also create peace on Earth everywhere else. They could if they wanted to. But I think where most other countries are involved in, where people are being hurt and so on, and animals, all of this happens through greed. Okay, greed is the main thing. And a long time in the past, when they didn't have technology that we have today, when they were depending on animals, on horses and so on, for their fast movements forward, the fastest they had were horses. And at that time, it was more like a territorial type of war. Today, this is not so much about the territory as it is about money and ownership of a political system. That's what it really is today. And that already went way into this, obviously, during the Second World War. So apparently what happened is that Adolf Hitler didn't commit suicide. He staged this. He used people's corpses to stage this. He and his girlfriend Eva Braun and the other people in his inner circle, they, about 1,000 people, they boarded a submarine of the highest technology that they had at that time, and they went underwater, and they slowly went with that submarine to Antarctica, and apparently they have docking stations there. I don't know if they're over water docking stations or underwater docking stations. Seems like they have created a very elaborate underground city, an underground tunnel system, large tunnels that are as wide as this living room here, like 40 feet wide, 50 feet wide tunnels, and 10 feet high or 20 feet high tunnels like this that go deep into the knolls and the mountains of Antarctica, deep under the ice, of course, and into the mountains. And I don't know how they were able to do it. And then some people speculate that could also be, that may have been built by other intelligent beings that came here from out of space, and they had the technology to create this tunnel system. So it's a possibility. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe the Germans created this tunnel, their own tunnel system. But they went into hiding there, into their underground city, into their tunnel system. So because they wanted to create a world where they could feel completely safe. And that I follow, I understand. Let's just not make this into some kind of dichotomy and into evil versus good, and can we actually judge, can anyone make this judgment and say, I am good and that person is bad, or this person is good, this person is bad, or this animal is bad, or this animal is good. Okay. They all have evolved the way they have a specific brain. They eat different food, a lion, a cat, any kind of feline has to eat meat. Obviously, they can't become a vegan. A dog can, okay, because dogs are omnivores. They can become vegan, and they live longer when they're vegan, okay. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, they have the Ingrid Newkirk's closest friends and activists. They rescue dogs. They always rescue dogs. They bring into their own homes as many dogs as they can accommodate. Okay, so they try to always accommodate the animals, particularly when the animals that are brought to them are not beyond repair. Okay, so they try to find homes, they try to accommodate. So there's a lot of hate propaganda against PETA, and that hate propaganda comes from the corporate agenda, okay, in order to smear campaign them. That's why. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, they're also infiltrated, of course. I've seen it many times. Also the way the people are working for them as programmers are often infiltrators, but Ingrid Newkirk is an angel soul, God-level soul, okay? And she wants to make the world a better place, and most people that are working for her are very, very good people that have good intentions and that want to help and do as much good as possible, okay? Just want to set the record straight here. But almost every organization or company has infiltrators that are trying to do damage and sabotage to that organization or whatever group or non-profit group and so on, or corporation. Okay, when the corporation is targeted by the corporate agenda, and someone has a good corporation, which is very rare, but it happens too, good corporation, as in Tesla, for example, then they will send infiltrators in order to sabotage them. So Elon Musk and Tesla, good, write it down on a piece of paper, hang it on the wall, so you don't forget, okay? Elon Musk is highest soul level, came here to help, okay? So highest, the absolute highest. This is his last actual incarnation. This is his last incarnation as a separate entity from the infinite cosmos. Upon him taking off his earthian space suit that this organism is, he will merge with the infinite cosmos and be one with it. And there'll be no more separation in soul. Okay, so then the next one will take that place. I don't know who that will be. Okay, but another Buddha level soul will take that place, will come next as at some point having their last incarnation in a separate beingness, as an individual soul, and then they will merge as well. And this is how the soul developmental, this is how it works. I have an insight into this now, and that's my personal insight, and I don't know if this is the ultimate truth, but it seems to me that this is what's happening, that this is the truth. This is what I feel to be the truth. Okay, so yeah, but back to Karl Donitz. He was a light worker soul, somewhere at the beginning of the light worker soul, and he was swept away with the dichotomy, as they all were, And it was us versus them, mind state. Okay, and that's not very evolved. It's very primitive. Okay, in terms of, it's a very primitive way of looking at the world, really. And then that in combination with knowledge about the occult, that's not good at all, because the occult should never be used by people who are not evolved, who are not that evolved. I think the only people that will actually not use the occult for selfish purposes are the ones that start at the soul level of indigo. Okay, those are the very first ones that recognize we cannot use the occult for our own dichotomy, worldview, selfish purposes, ego way of thinking. We've never worked on ourselves. Now we're creating an enemy picture, and so on. So it starts, I think, with the indigo, who will recognize and say, this is sensitive information that should not get into the wrong hands, for sure. And the indigo is the first one who has enough responsibility to not use the occult for their own selfish purposes. But the light worker, one step below that, which is Paul, okay, but he's a more advanced light worker, but still, because he wouldn't see the causality, he wouldn't see the danger of this. When let's take a child. A child will take a gun. That has happened. A little 1-year-old takes a gun. Oh, interesting toy. Huh? Ping! Shoots his dad. Dead. Oh, I didn't know that would happen. Oh, that's terrible. I don't even know what's going on, though. Why is my dad on the floor bleeding, right? So that's the same with the occult. Don't let someone who is not responsible, who doesn't have that insight, who doesn't know causality, who doesn't know the bigger picture, or has a vision who's a visionary, who's not able to see the Grand Canyon abyss in front of them, or where this car could drive down into, or this person could get into this danger, or whatever. They don't see the picture of it. Those people should not be allowed to have access to the occult. It can cause war, it can cause danger, it can cause suffering, it can cause death, and it can even make these people crazy. Okay, because they're not ready for that information. Okay, that's as simple as that. This has to be said. Okay, so yeah, what else? What did I want to say? So, but the main thing is, I have to start. If I'm jealous, I have to deal with this. I have to sit down. If Adolf Hitler had done that, if he had enough help from other people with this, if there were people that could have had some kind of monitoring or supervision over him and said to him, you are right now at the brink of world war versus your own healing. What would you choose, right? Which path do you want to go into? He would probably say, I'd rather do self-healing. But, if nobody points that out to him, then we was to keep on repeating another Hitler-esque situation. Okay, whether that is Black Lives Matter or Islam or whatever. Whatever form it may come in, right? Whatever form has snowballed and escalated enough, it will. That's exactly the same energy pattern. Just because there are different people doesn't make it better. Okay, it's a different ethnicity this time, it's a different religion this time, doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it worse. It can be worse, but it's all the same pattern. People need to understand this. Okay, so don't allow something to escalate out of control again. Okay, so that's why this is what I wanted to say. That's why the Drake equation, the physicist, the astrophysicist Drake, I believe that was his name. No, I don't know if that's Enrico Fermi. I don't know if it's I mixed this up. Enrico Fermi, Italian astrophysicist. Enrico Fermi, I think he created the Drake equation, and I don't know where the Drake just comes from, the Draconians. No, I don't know where that actual word comes from. Or is that someone's name? I don't know. Or if this is an abbreviation? I don't know. So leave me a comment if you know anything about this. So I like to get informed about it. But he has created this. He said, if an ET spaceship comes to us and makes contact, the chances are extremely high, if not guaranteed, that they have made it past that bottleneck of self-destruction. So, and all of this ties in everything, the therapy help centers, the introspection, all of this ties into this very subject of bottleneck situation for an entire species. And we are at this brink right now. That's why we need the introspection, and we need to have therapy help centers that are free of charge. This cannot be profit driven in any form whatsoever. This is a public commodity. It is a public necessity for us. It's an urgency for us. Okay, so that every Adolf Hitler, whoever that is, okay, with that same pattern again, can be recognized and stopped from escalating in the wrong direction towards the abyss of the Grand Canyon. We can stop them and say, you are escalating yourself in the wrong direction. You have to come out of this, and you have to go into introspection, and you have to let off other people completely. And I say this with utmost conviction and knowledge from my own life. Okay. I wouldn't be so absolutely convinced if I had not been through this many, many times over. And as an indigo, I know my inner voice tells me that I can't go into the Hitler direction. I can't do it. Okay. I'm a natural born leader and dictator, but I would never escalate into this direction where I would go to war against a specific group, religion, belief system, ethnicity, or so on. I would say, let's not tolerate violent people. Let's not tolerate violence. No tolerance for violence. Okay, that would be my mission statement. Okay, zero tolerance for violence. But this is not a mission statement that is directed at any specific group or ethnicity. Okay, just want to make this very crystal clear, because we can't do it. We cannot do this. It's impossible to do this. Cannot do it. It goes in the wrong direction if you do. Okay, you cannot do it. So we need to really understand this. It's very crystal clear. We need therapy help centers, and I don't know if people without AGI robots or without ETs that are more advanced than we are, I don't know if we are able to get a grip on this bottleneck situation right now right here. Okay, this is it. This is now the time of this bottleneck situation. Okay, we're way into the bottleneck now. Okay, we have narrowed ourselves down. We have driven as a species, ourselves into a dangerous predicament with environmental destruction, with global warming that is now at a point of irreversibility. Okay, it's irreversible now. Again, the weather catastrophes are now going to unfold, whether people straighten out now or not. Okay, everyone who has a regular home built out of wood will lose their home. The homes will, not just the roofs. Now we're at the stage where the roofs are blown off. Happens at the other house all the time. But all the roofs are going to get blown off now with future weather catastrophes. And in just a few years, maybe 10 years from now, all the homes that are made out of wood and flimsy materials will be blown off into the wind. Okay, that's what's going to happen. This is so bad, some storms, that I heard entire cows and cars have been lifted up and deposited at a different place. Yeah, a cow brought to someone's backyard suddenly. There's a cow in my backyard. I have no idea how the cow got there, but the wind brought her there. Okay, so yeah. And that's just fairy tale thinking, wishful thinking. When the cow gets lifted up, or a car, the wind is most likely not going to gently place them somewhere else. Okay, they're probably going to just slam them against something else or make them break their bones and make them fall somewhere. Okay, so that's the situation right now. A lot of destruction, a lot of suffering. Okay, all because of greed, all because corporations were not willing to let off oil drilling and gasoline engines and coal mining and all of these destructive things, all because of greed. Okay? Now we're facing the consequences. This is what's called a bottleneck situation. Enrico Fermi said, if we are visited by an alien civilization, by an ET civilization, they most likely have made it through this bottleneck and are wiser because of that. They have made it through because they are wiser. They have not destroyed themselves. Okay. So, I don't know if the human species is capable of understanding this. Even if my video was mandatorily shown to every single person with this message, I don't know if people are willing to take that journey into themselves, let off this, all this entire thing, the entire corporate society, Hollywood, all of the brainwashing with the competition and all of this, the things that people think they need to do, like things people think they need to go under the knife, they need to have surgery because they need to compete with someone else who had gone under the knife or whatever. All of this is corporate thinking, corporate brainwashing, and many other things, competitive type of things between the women, between the men, and so on. All of this can be brought to an end if people see reality for what it is. And they see that everyone is precious. Every single living being is equally precious. And we just need to embrace ourselves the way we are and feel our pain. Let go of other people. Feel the jealousy. Feel that this is a main feeling in almost all humans. And many other animals have that feeling too, in a more rudimentary form, okay, in a more honest form. But that's why we need to come back to our senses and to ourselves. Because most people are not honest about it. They are lying to themselves about it. They have bottled it up. Okay, they're under pressure. They're in a pressure cooker. They need to come to their senses and let all that bottled off energy free and let it heal. Shoot it to the sun and let it heal. Okay, as it goes into the sun, let it recycle. Let it heal. Let this energy of self-compression, of jealousy, of denying that you have that feeling, let it heal itself. Let it free. Okay. And feel it, cry it out every single day. It will get better after a while. Okay. Cry it out. Very, very important to do. Then the species has a chance, even with the weather catastrophes. We just have to build different architecture. The only homes that will withstand this will be very, very strong, storm-proof, greenhouse type of structures, dome house type of tunnel, dome house type of structures. Those are the only ones that will, basically aerodynamic, like an airplane is built. Those are the only structures that will survive this. Okay, this is the truth. But the most important, if we want to make it through the bottleneck, you have to start with you, with yourself. You have to let off other people. You have to deal with your jealousy alone. You have to go into it. You have to cry it out and not try to get compliments or try to get something from someone else or use someone for something else or compete with someone. Let off. Okay. It's your opportunity now to go into your own mind and really be radically honest with yourself, as honest as possible, radically honest, and say, yes, true, I'm jealous. I have to feel it. And it's not the other person's fault that they are better or whatever. Let them be better. Celebrate that, right? So everyone, we're all different. We're all extremely different. Some people have extreme abilities. Elon Musk has extreme, off the charts IQ. Now, feel your jealousy. Recognize it, feel it. Don't deny, don't suppress it. Don't deny it. Don't erase your jealousy because you can't. Okay? Deal with that jealousy. Don't act it out on him or anyone. Deal with that jealousy. Go into your own mind and say, yes, you are jealous, and feel it and cry it out. Men can cry too. Okay. So it's much easier for us women, all of this. And it's easier said than done when I give advice to men. Okay. I'm very, 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 very informed about this now, okay, because I see how much men suffer and struggle, okay, and how much they are much more in denial about their emotions than women are, and that's what causes such misunderstandings between you and me, okay, between men and women in general. So it causes such terrible misunderstandings. And that's not polarity. The misunderstandings that a lot of men think this is polarity. This is like we have to be different. This is sexy or something. No, it's a misunderstanding. We have plenty of polarity if we don't have misunderstandings. Trust me, we already have physical polarity. Okay? We have hormonal polarity. We don't need psycho-terror polarity on top of it, right? No, we don't need it. That has nothing to do with masculinity and femininity. the psychoterror stuff. That has to do with mental illness, and that needs to be dealt with. Okay, so because then we can actually live together in peace. We can work together, we can function together, we can make the world work. Okay, we don't have to go to war against each other. If women and men even go to war against each other, how is the human species going to make it through this bottleneck? That there'll be an evolutionary dead end. That's not polarity. I just want to make this very crystal clear here. Okay? We have to work on our mental illness in order to come together and find peace. Okay? You guys take care.